The dust came first. Asterisk fine, pale, bitter, drifting like ash across the cracked earth. It crawled over the sagebrush and caught in the lashes of a man who hadn't blinked in a long time. Elijah Creed stood on the rise, squinting toward the horizon where the wind was stirring up something cruel. Asterisk in the distance. A wagon tore across the canyon flat, its canvas scorched and flapping, smoke curling from the undercarriage. A woman was at the reins, not steering so much as holding on, and beside her, a child gripped the wooden side with both arms and a mouth open in a silent scream. Asterisk Elijah didn't think. He just ran, asterisk boots pounding the gravel, lungs full of ash and wind. The slope was steep and the sun was unforgiving, but he moved like a man chasing a ghost, like there was something in that wagon he couldn't lose. Asterisk by the time he reached it, the front wheel had splintered. The horse had bolted. The woman lay crumpled in the dust, coughing into the crook of her arm, her dress torn and streaked with smoke. The child was safe, hiding under a canvas flap, eyes too big for her face, body too still for comfort. Asterisk Elijah didn't ask names. Asterisk he grabbed the woman by the shoulders and hoisted her upright, his voice calm, gravel deep. "There's a storm coming," he said. "You ain't gonna make it out here." She didn't argue, she just nodded, like someone who'd already lost enough. They reached the outpost. Just before the sun dipped into blood. Asterisk the place was a rust-bitten relic, a gas station converted from an old Union military shack, stuck between nowhere and regret. The pump handles hadn't turned in years. A broken bell above the door clinked in the wind. Asterisk Elijah had fixed up what he could. A tin roof that didn't leak too often, a potbelly stove that roared when fed right, and a cot in the back room that still smelled like kerosene and memory. Asterisk he sat the woman down by the stove and handed her a tin mug. Asterisk she took it with trembling fingers. The child curled beside her, eyes still wide, still silent. "I'm Elijah," he offered. "Place ain't much, but it holds." Asterisk Anna May, she said finally. "That's my daughter, Lily." Asterisk there was something in her voice, not accent, not tone, but caution. Like every word had been boiled down, sifted through loss, and offered carefully. The storm hit that night. Asterisk not thunder, not rain, just wind, howling, dry, alive. It rattled the walls and shook the glass, and somewhere out back an old sign creaked on its chain like a noose. Asterisk Elijah didn't sleep. He sat near the door, shotgun across his lap, boots still on. He'd seen too much to ever let go completely. Asterisk he watched Anna May in the low glow of the stove, how her hand brushed back Lily's hair, how her eyes never closed fully. Asterisk she was hiding something. Asterisk he didn't know what, didn't ask. But he'd known enough liars and runners to see the tightness in her jaw, the bruises she'd tried to cover. By morning, she was on her feet. Asterisk cleaning, sweeping, reorganizing the dusty shelves like it mattered. "This place was my father's," she said suddenly. "Died last year. Owed money, lots of it. They came looking. Took what was worth anything." Asterisk who? Asterisk she didn't answer. Just knelt by the old tool shed and pulled up a warped floorboard. Asterisk there's more to this place than old gas and rust, she whispered. Asterisk Elijah knelt beside her. Beneath the plank, wrapped in wax paper and bound with twine, was a box, receipts, maps, a letter so old the ink had begun to fade. Asterisk she looked at him then. Asterisk promise me you'll burn it if they come. Asterisk Elijah Lily's voice was soft, the first time she spoke. She held a small brass object in her palm, a compass. It spun uselessly, never settling. He smiled, took it gently. "That's a broken thing, sweetheart." But even broken things. Remember which way's home? Later that week the well went dry. Asterisk the dust had thickened. Coyotes circled at night, yipping like spirits. Elijah climbed into the hills to check the spring, but the wind was so strong it pushed him sideways. Asterisk when he returned, Anna May was standing at the pump holding a rusted wrench, tears streaking her cheeks. "I tried," she said, as if she owed him something. "You're here." "That's trying enough." Asterisk they fixed the pump together in silence, metal against metal, fingers blistered, arms burned. She didn't flinch when their hands touched. That evening, he found her by the back fence, watching the last sliver of sun vanish behind the hills. You're running, he said. Not accusing. Just fact, she nodded. I stole from someone who thought they owned me. Not money, just truth. Elijah didn't press. He just handed her the compass, still spinning. Still lost. Sometimes, he murmured, the road to freedom looks like a mistake. They heard riders 2 days later, distant hoofbeats, low voices, bootsteps crunching dry gravel. Elijah moved quietly to the window. 3 men dust-covered, not law, not travelers. The kind who walked like they'd never had to say, please. One of them pointed at the station. The tallest pulled out a paper. Something legal-looking, stiff. The third one, eyes pale as winter, carried a long rifle slung over his shoulder like a sleeping snake. Elijah turned to Anna May. They're here for you, aren't they? She swallowed. They're here for what my father left buried. What's under this place? Her eyes flicked toward the shed. Elijah, it's not gold, it's worse. Then the men didn't knock. They just walked in. Name's Greaves, the tall one said, tipping his hat without respect. We've got reason to believe this land holds value. Value owed to the Union Rail Company under Article 73 of the Reconstruction Accord. Elijah stood between them and Anna May. This is private land. Not for long. Greaves said, unfolding the paper, behind him. The pale-eyed man smiled, just once. Anna May stepped forward. You're wasting your time. The deed's gone. Burned with my father. Greaves tilted his head. Then we'll just have to dig till we find what's left. Elijah's grip tightened around the shotgun, but Anna May put a hand on his arm. Not yet. That night, they buried the compass behind the shed. Lily placed a flower above it. It still spins, she whispered. Anna May knelt beside her. That's because some truths don't point north. They point forward. Elijah sat alone on the porch, wind tugging at his coat. In the distance, the railroad stretched like a scar across the desert. He knew this wasn't just a woman or a station anymore. It was something buried. Something poisoned. And when you dig into poisoned land, you better be ready to bleed. The wind didn't rest. It tore through the canyon like a bitter oath. Each morning brought more dust, more creaks from the rafters, more silence between the glances Elijah and Anna May shared. Not mistrust, no, that had passed. What lingered now was something older. Elijah rose early, shoulders stiff from nights on the floor. The well was running low again. The last storm had shaken the pipes loose beneath the ridge, and he hadn't found the right time or courage to leave the station. Not with strangers circling. Not with Lily watching him like he was something holy. That morning, he headed out with rope and iron in hands already blistered. He reached the upper ridge by noon. A blackened hawk wheeled overhead, casting long shadows across the rocks. When he reached the spring, the pipe lay in pieces. Clean cuts, not time, not rust, knives. He turned fast, shotgun raised, but he wasn't alone. A man sat beneath the cottonwood tree, arms folded, face half hidden in the folds of a faded blanket. His boots were worn raw, and a jagged scar climbed from his chin to his left ear like lightning. Didn't break your pipe? The man said, Didn't fix it either, Elijah replied, calm but steady. I figured I'd wait to see which side you were on. I'm on the side that still buries its dead. The man looked up then. His eyes were dark and dry, like desert stone, and his voice came out quiet, like leaves moving in wind. Call me Hawk. They walked back together, no questions. Just the creak of worn leather and the occasional rattle of snakegrass. When they reached the station, Lily stood at the edge of the porch, staring. Hawk nodded once. She nodded back. Anna May didn't ask who he was. She just handed him water and stitched the torn hem of his coat while he sat silently by the stove. That night, Elijah couldn't sleep. Hawk didn't either. They sat on the roof, staring into the black. Coyotes cried somewhere to the west. You knew her father? Elijah asked. Hawk's answer was slow. He was a surveyor. Worked for the Union, drew maps, dug holes. But he didn't just draw borders. He buried things beneath them. Asterisk? Buried what? Asterisk oil, Hawk said. Not crude, not yet. Just the smell of it. Just enough to make white men nervous. Asterisk? And the deed? Asterisk worth 200 million now, Hawk murmured. Maybe more. Enough to buy 100 armies. Asterisk Elijah felt the weight in his chest shift, not fear, not yet. But something close. They're gonna come back, Hawk said. They'll bring fire this time. 2 days passed. Asterisk Elijah, Hawk, and Anna May worked in silence. Repaired the pump, reinforced the shed, taught Lily how to catch lizards without hurting them. Asterisk on the third morning. Hawk showed Elijah the safe. Asterisk. It was buried under 3 layers of rotted planks and hidden beneath the old fuel drum in the back room. Asterisk. The lock was rusted shut. The air smelled like paper and ghosts. Asterisk inside were blueprints. Names, telegraph receipts. 1 yellowed envelope with 3 faded letters stamped on the seal. Elijah opened it slowly. The handwriting inside was careful, stiff, a draft of a contract, unfiled, for the full purchase of Union oil rights across 700 acres. Addressed to a name scratched out in haste. And in the bottom corner, a signature, Abraham Lincoln, asterisk. He sat back. The room tilted slightly. This wasn't just land. It was war money, asterisk. And it had never been meant for the people who took it. No. May found the grave that afternoon. Asterisk. It wasn't marked. Just a stone ring in the dry earth behind the station. Beneath an old mesquite tree, inside the stone circle, there was a box. Inside the box, drawings. A child's hand. Scribbles of train tracks and flames and a man standing in a long black coat. His eyes were crossed out with charcoal. Asterisk. Anna May went still. Her hands trembled. Asterisk. My father used to say, he made deals for our future, she whispered. But I didn't know it was built on bones. Asterisk. Elijah reached out but didn't speak. She didn't need comfort. She needed time. That night, Elijah cleaned the shotgun. Hawk sat beside him with a knife, sharpening it slowly. Would you kill for it? Elijah asked. Asterisk. No, Hawk said. But I'd bleed if it meant burying the truth with the right hands this time. Asterisk. Elijah looked down at the compass Lily had unearthed again. It still spun in wild circles. He held it flat and whispered, where does justice point? Hawk didn't answer. Asterisk. On the 5th day, they heard the gunshot. It echoed off the canyon wall. Lily screamed. Asterisk. Anna May pulled her back into the house. Elijah and Hawk dropped to the dirt. 2 riders approached. Not the same as before, these wore sheriff stars, but their boots were too clean, men who borrowed uniforms. Not earned them, one of them called out, We have papers. This land belongs to the Union by law. Step aside or step down. Asterisk. Elijah walked forward alone, coat flapping in the wind. Asterisk. You want paper? He said. He held up the Lincoln letter. Their faces changed. Just a flicker, a second too long. Asterisk. Where'd you find that? The leader asked. Asterisk. In the heart of a man who died knowing what he'd done. The standoff lasted hours. Asterisk. Hawk flanked them from the east ridge. Rifle balanced on a stone. Anay stayed inside with Lily. Elijah stood alone, the compass in one hand, the paper in the other. Asterisk. You walk away, Elijah said. Or this goes to Washington. The younger of the 2 stepped forward. You won't make it to the border alive. I wasn't planning on going, Elijah said. The men left. Not defeated, but calculating. Asterisk. The real fire, they knew, would come at night. Hawk didn't sleep. Asterisk. He laid tripwires along the edge of the fence, dug trenches by the shed, tied a red cloth to the mesquite tree, Apache warning sign. Asterisk. Lily painted symbols on the windows. Anna May sang to her in a language Elijah didn't recognize, soft and lilting, like lullabies layered in sorrow. Elijah stared at the safe. Asterisk. What would you do with it? He asked Anna May. Asterisk. Nothing, she said. We can't spend what they killed to hide. But we can give it to someone who can tell the story right. Asterisk. And if no one listens? Asterisk, then let the ashes speak. That night the wind changed. Asterisk it. Didn't howl, it whispered, and somewhere beyond the ridge, lanterns moved in the dark. Asterisk. The night cracked open without warning. The lanterns that had shimmered like fireflies beyond the ridge turned into torches, then rifles, then boots in the dirt. Shadows moved with intent. Not cowards this time, soldiers in suits. Greed given. Teeth, asterisk Elijah, stood alone beneath the overhang, hand resting on the shotgun's barrel. Hawk was already gone, vanished into the scrub like mist, silent and watching. Anna May crouched inside with Lily, whispering stories that weren't meant to comfort. Only to remind the child that her heart still beat. Asterisk, from the darkness came a voice. Asterisk, smooth, measured, and cruel by omission. Asterisk, Elijah Creed, you've got something that belongs to men with very long shadows. We're not here to ask. Asterisk, he didn't respond, didn't need to. He took a single step forward into the moonlight. The wind flared his coat open. His boots drew a line in the dust. Asterisk, I don't care who it belonged to, he said. It's not yours, asterisk, a pause. Then laughter. Then metal rifle bolts pulled back, safeties released, asterisk inside the shed. Anna May moved to the trapdoor beneath the floorboards. The safe waited below, documents wrapped in cloth, maps, contracts, records tied with twine. Worth more than gold. Worth dying over, asterisk? Are we running? Lily asked. Asterisk. No, Anna May said, her voice breaking. We're telling the truth. The first shot came from the ridge, asterisk, a single crack. Then silence. One torch dropped. One man fell. The others scattered, confused, yelling. Then the wind came, hard, bitter, blinding with dust. Hawk had chosen his moment. Chaos in the dust was a language he spoke fluently. Asterisk, Elijah dropped to one knee and fired once. Then again clean, sharp blasts that cracked the quiet open like bone. Asterisk inside. He called over his shoulder. Asterisk, Anna May slammed the trapdoor shut just as a bullet shattered the front window. Lily screamed. Hawk dropped from the roof like a wraith and covered the girl with his coat. Asterisk. They're circling, he rasped. Blood streamed down his arm. Asterisk, Anna May grabbed his face, checked the wound, pressed her palm to his chest. You stay with me. Asterisk, Hawk didn't nod. He just stayed. The firefight didn't last long, not because they won, but because Elijah lit. The fuse, asterisk, he'd found the old oil lines weeks ago, corroded, buried, leaking just enough to coat the shed's edge in a thin film. He waited until the shooters were close, then struck a flare and rolled it under the wall. Asterisk, fire rose like a dragon's breath. Fast. Unforgiving, asterisk, men screamed. The station shuddered. Flames licked up the sides of the roof, peeling paint, eating. Memory. Elijah burst through the smoke and grabbed Anna May by the wrist. Now, he shouted. She didn't move. I have to give it to them. Asterisk, they won't take it. They'll bury it again. Asterisk, that's why I'm not giving it to them. She threw open the trapdoor, grabbed the satchel of documents, and stuffed them beneath her coat. She ran through the smoke, through the fire line, through screaming men who hadn't yet realized they'd lost. Asterisk, and she ran straight into the flames, not to die, but to reach the one thing they hadn't touched, the old postbox nailed to the burned porch beam. Asterisk, Anna May shoved the bundle inside, slammed it shut. Then she turned, just as the porch gave out from under her. Asterisk, Elijah caught her arm, pulled, screamed, the wood cracked, the porch fell, asterisk, and she went with it. They found her by dawn, asterisk, her fingers were curled around the postbox. Key, smoke blackened, still warm, asterisk, Lily clutched it in both hands and wailed like the sky had broken. Elijah dropped to his knees beside her, heart torn open. Nothing left to say. Hawk stood a few paces back, arm bandaged, eyes hollow. They won't come back, he said. Not after what they lost? Asterisk, Elijah looked up at him. We lost more. Asterisk, I didn't say it was fair. They buried her beneath the mesquite tree. Asterisk, same circle of stones her father had used. But this time, Lily added a compass to the grave still spinning. Never still. 2 weeks passed. The station was ash. The well had collapsed. Asterisk, and still, they stayed. Asterisk, Elijah rebuilt the fence. Hawk taught Lily how to track birds by shadow. They didn't speak about the night. They didn't need to. Then one morning, a mail rider came, dusty, confused, holding a letter in trembling fingers, addressed to a New York paper, postmarked from Creed Station, sealed with a name, Anna May. Harper, it had reached the world, the truth she'd died for. The paper ran at front page. Oil maps, union corruption, names of the men who had burned the West to line their pockets. The letter ended with a line scrawled. In her own hand, asterisk, this land was bought with blood. Let it not be sold again with silence. They never got rich, asterisk, no checks came. No promises, asterisk, but within a year, the government declared the canyon sacred land, no digging, no selling. No CLAIMERS. Asterisk, and on a quiet hill with nothing but dust and old boots, Elijah built a new station. No gas, no maps. Just bread, water, shelter, for lost souls, for travelers who still believe in second chances. Lily grew. The nightmares didn't fade, but they softened. She called Hawk, Uncle, now. She carved her mother's name into wood with her own hands. Elijah kept the compass in his pocket. It still spun, asterisk, but sometimes, when the wind was just right, it pointed toward the grave, and then forward, always forward, asterisk.